By the one, the only Sam Quinn, NBA reporter for CBS Sports. And Sam, we've been kind of having some fun back and forth on social media, so I was really excited to try to get you on the show. And I know you're running around with the draft tomorrow, and obviously a trade could happen during this segment as we're going. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Trade could have. I was about to go to bed last night and a trade happened. Anytime, any place. That's this time of year.
Let's start here, Sam. I'm seeing these videos from the Oklahoma City parade. I want to get your general thoughts on the idea of models out here in Sacramento with Jordi Fernandez, who had spent some time in Denver, and you had Sabonis, who a couple years ago was kind of viewed as a diet Jokic, if you will. It was the Denver Nuggets model, and now we have the Oklahoma City model and the Rockets model where you can just tank and it works out, even though we've seen that not work. Then you have the Pacers, which is the get the star and the retool model, which is kind of similar to the Thunder in a way. How do you feel about the models now? And let's say the Blazers deciding they kind of semi-tank, they go get Scoot, a couple other guys, but doing the second draft retool thing, going to get Drew Holiday. Where are you at with the NBA as it pertains to quote unquote models to follow?
I think a lot of that stuff is overblown. I don't think any two roster builds are ever identical. I think it's generally pretty straightforward. Your goal is to get a lot of very good players. Ideally, one or two of them are a star, and you want those very good players to do different things, right? The Knicks didn't do anything that the Thunder did, right? Like, they didn't draft anybody. Yeah. Every team, you look at the teams that are successful, Indiana's model is totally irreplicable, right? Like, all they did was pluck guys on rookie deals who hadn't performed as well as, their teams had expected. And they get to Indiana, and all of a sudden, they're the best versions of themselves. No two teams are in identical situations. No two teams have the same roles to offer guys. No two teams have the same coaching staffs. I think your general philosophy is start by getting a couple of foundational pieces, however you need to go about that, whether you draft them, whether you trade for them, sign them in free agency, whatever, and then just start adding players that make sense next to them after that. I don't think you can ever look at one way of building a team and saying, oh, the Thunder have proven this way is best. It's going to be entirely circumstantial. It's going to depend on what kind of players are available to you, what you're in a position to do. So I would think that's overblown. Every team is in its own situation.
Talking to Sam Quinn of CBS Sports, and I actually want to take it here because you said a word, foundational. And Sam, it's starting to feel like Domantas Sabonis is just the most confusing foundational piece in the history of the NBA. Where are you at with Domantas Sabonis in regards to him being a quote unquote foundational player? I mean, they kind of tried to do the thing, like I said, the Denver thing, and then they move off of De'Aaron Fox, DeMar DeRozan. That combo didn't get a lot of time, but this new iteration didn't work very well either. The curious case of Domantas Sabonis, how do you value him?
I was of the opinion for a long time that you couldn't win a championship with a weak defensive center. Jokic made me rethink that a little bit, but I do think we need to be honest. Sabonis can be a very good player without being Jokic. Jokic is his own thing. I don't know that I would use him as a barometer for anybody else, but you have to go in, if you have Sabonis, with the understanding that rim protection is going to be a vulnerability for you. You have to be totally stout everywhere else defensively if you're going to be viable with Sabonis as your center. One of the problems the Kings have had is that they really haven't had good defensive players around him. Mike Brown was a good defensive coach. I think he's one of the best floor raisers in the NBA when it comes to just getting bad defensive players up to average, up to competence. But now Mike Brown is gone. You look up and down that roster. Keon Ellis is a very good defender. I'm very excited about him. I think Keegan Murray's a little underrated, maybe not as consistent as you'd hope, but good defensive tools, and I think somebody you could be a part of a good defense. After that, DeMar's a mess. Malik Monk doesn't really defend. You go up and down that roster, and it's like you're not doing Sabonis any favors with the ways that you've built your team. I think Sacramento, it's hard to build with Sabonis. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you go up and down that roster, and they have a lot of different guys who present challenges that aren't really getting addressed. It's hard to build around Zack Lavine, too. He hasn't had really any playoff success in his career. It's hard to build around DeMar DeRozan. And I think all of these guys have sort of been acquired haphazardly and not necessarily placed onto a roster with any thoughtful care. I don't know that any of these guys make sense together. I don't know why they thought reuniting DeRozan and Lavine made sense.
Yeah, they're calling them the Sacramento Bulls out here, Sam. Talking to Sam Quinn, NBA reporter for CBS Sports. Let's stick with DeMar DeRozan now. Look, I'm out here, Sam. I'm fighting with Miami Heat fans who they want to give you some bubble gum and some sun chips for DeMar DeRozan. I'm of the mindset that I think DeMar DeRozan is maybe a little bit undervalued, but maybe I have purple colored lenses on. How do you think these trades from Desmond Bane to Kevin Durant to now Jrue Holiday, how do you think these trades have affected DeMar DeRozan's value, if at all?
I don't think DeMar DeRozan is going to net positive value in a trade. I think you can use him as matching salary. Like we know the Kings want a point guard. Sabonis was not subtle about that. They obviously could use defensive upgrades as we've covered. I think that's like neutral matching salary where you can send him out and not have to attach a pick. But this is a guy in his mid-30s who doesn't defend and doesn't shoot threes. That's not what the NBA is about anymore, right? The whole he can get a bucket but doesn't do anything else. Those players just aren't especially valuable. We live in a world where Mikal Bridges nets 5 first-round picks in a trade. Desmond Bane gets 4. Right now, the thing that teams value more than anything are players that can easily slot onto any roster, right? That don't have weaknesses. DeMar has strengths. They're pretty significant. There's a reason that he's made so many all-star teams, but he has pretty significant weaknesses too. And if you're trying to win a championship, you don't want to have to cover for those things, right? Yeah. So I think teams at the highest level are probably looking at DeMar and saying, he doesn't really make sense. He's not good enough to be a primary offensive engine anymore, but he does come with all these weaknesses that we don't really want to cover. But then if you look at rebuilding teams, it's like, why do we want to give him our minutes and our shots? Why wouldn't we want to just give those things to our younger players? So there's not an obvious fit. Miami does make some sense after they missed out on Kevin Durant. Miami's just kind of in the middle. They don't really have any obvious move to make here, but I don't know that DeMar has a really significant market. I think if you're using him, it's probably matching salary, either to get a point guard or to get a more versatile forward to stick next to Keegan Murray. They need to balance that roster out. It's way too guard heavy at the moment.
You're killing me, Sam. You're killing me right now. I'm thinking I saw the Suns shopping Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal, guys like that. I think it's interesting, but they've had defensive problems too. Well, there is somebody on the squad that can shoot threes at a high level, Sam. Talking to Sam Quinn of CBS Sports. Zack Lavine. Zack Lavine was dang near a 50, 40, 90 guy. He went through a lot this past season, and he still put up some numbers. Sam, do you think – I know the contract is tough, okay? But do you think there is a team out there that, again, missed out on KD or, feel like they are in the market for someone? Do you think there's a team out there who could talk themselves into a Zack Lavine the same way the Kings did? And the Kings weren't alone. There were reports about the Warriors as well. Do you think there's a team that might be able to talk themselves into a Zack Lavine at some point?
Yeah, I think there would be. You could move him, right? That contract I don't think is quite as onerous anymore as it was at first. You've lopped off the first few years. He had a good year. He was healthy last year for the most part, played well. And unlike DeMar DeRozan, I think the big difference is he shoots threes. So you don't have to worry, what's he going to look like off of the ball? Right. He'll at least space the floor for you. He's a very, you can run a bench offense through him. He's not going to be, somebody who's going to drive a top 5 offense. But if you have a better offensive player on your team and you're saying, we really struggle when this guy's on the bench, Lavine can carry you for half a quarter, for a quarter if you need him to. I think there would be interest. I don't know that the value would be especially high, but Chicago spent a year and a half just trying to get rid of the money. Yeah. I don't think that's the case anymore, so long as he remains healthy. I do think for Sacramento, though, the danger you run into, he gets hurt again and poof, all that progress is gone. Chicago saw this, right? You can't trade a guy like that with that much money when you're concerned about his health. I think he's become a little bit underrated as a player. I think he can help a team win. It's just very, very difficult at that price point.
Sam Quinn, before we get you out of here, because I know you're running around. Sam, let's just pretend you're in Sacramento and your name is Scott Perry. What would you do right now going into the offseason? What would you do if you were in control of the Sacramento Kings and you were in that front office? What would you do?
Yeah, nobody wants to hear that, especially in this market, but you got to blow it up, right? I mean, where I'm looking at this is that they have a 500 or so team in a conference with 9 or 10 really, really competitive, like up from championship level at Oklahoma City and Houston down through like Dallas is going to be really good, right? And Portland just made a trade to improve. That whole Western Conference from like 1 to 10 is so good, so deep, so strong. I don't know what the win now upside is here. I think you could probably get pretty good stuff back if you put Sabonis on the table, if you put Lavine on the table, put even Murray on the table, right? It would be so easy. And the Kings, unfortunately, have a lot of experience with this to get to the bottom in the West right now. I know in Sacramento, in that market, there's not a great history with tanking. It hasn't been fortunate for them in the past. I would just say they're kind of aimless right now, right? If your goal is to just be competitive and hang around 500, yeah, they can do that. If you want to take meaningful strides and actively jump into the championship conversation eventually, that starts with getting an all-NBA caliber player, somebody who's not like Sabonis, who's going to hang around the fringes of it and be flawed. Like, you got to get a top 5, top 10-ish player. And the only way you do that in this market is by drafting them. So if I were them, I would blow it up. I don't think they have any taste for that in that market. Vivek Ranadive has obviously experienced his fair share of losing. I don't think he's eager to go back towards it intentionally, but I'm not him. I haven't lived through these 18 of 19 years in the lottery. My decision would probably be a little bit different.
Sam Quinn, incredible stuff. Thank you so much, man. We got to do this again. Be sure to follow Sam Quinn on social media and check out all of his work on CBS Sports. Thank you again, Sam, and we'll talk to you soon. That was Sam Quinn of CBS Sports. When we return